Next on Between Sips.
And this, for me, really saved me.
Mm.
Just over a year ago, my eldest son, who was 17 at the time, had quite a horrific accident. He was electrocuted.
Hi, it's Susan, and welcome to Between Sips. I was thinking the other day how I started this podcast and what is the essence of it? And then I realized, oh yeah, it goes all the way back to the 90s when I used to watch a little known show called Saturday Night Live. You might know it. On there was this particular sketch that Mike Myers was featured in called Coffee Talk with Paula Baldwin. Paula Baldwin was this New York Jewish woman who would invite friends over for coffee and a talk. And so here we are. This is my version of that. And while I'll be inviting a lot of my friends to have talks, I might drop in an episode or two here and there solo. This is an extension of my business called Susan's Little Cup of Magic, so it all ties into the coffee talk thing. I hope in this podcast that you can feel that it's cozy, chill, conversational, but above all, these conversations are meant to connect and to bring something inspiring and motivating to you, for us, to feel that connection. And if something does inspire you here today, while you're listening, please drop a comment down below. Now, if you want to know where to find my podcast, it's in two places. It's here on YouTube. It's on anywhere you can hear a podcast, but it originates over on Substack. And if you want to join the community or maybe become a guest on Coffee Talk, or AKA Between Sips, join me over there on Substack. This next episode is fresh and ready for you, so grab your cups and let's go listen. Today's guest on Between Sips is my friend Spencer Waldron. He is the founder of senrocks.com and helps people show up as the best version of themselves when it matters most. He is a leading expert in conversational presenting and works side by side with leaders and teams to replace traditional one-way slide decks with clear, engaging, audience-led conversation. Spencer is also a LinkedIn learning instructor, TEDx speaker, and an improv comedy student. I met Spencer in improv comedy, and I'm so excited to welcome him on this podcast. Really excited to have this conversation again with you, Spencer. Again, I say again because it was a really cool conversation we were having last week.
Yeah.
And Between Sips is all about a casual conversation with a little bit of a focus. And you and I have hit up on this word a little bit in that conversation, which was resilience or resiliency, or it's a very potent word. Especially as two people living in a foreign country, that's where I kind of see my resiliency coming in. But I'd like to try to bring that conversation back while we're recording. And of course, I first want to say how I know Spencer. Spencer and I are fellow, do we call ourselves boomers? Because that could go two ways.
Amazing. Yeah.
And we are not boomers. We are Gen Xers.
How did we said?
Oh, is that what you just said? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So we are boomers for a different reason that maybe people don't know, but we both studied at the Boom Chicago Academy in the heart of Amsterdam, which Boom Chicago is a comedy house, improv house.
Improv comedy, yeah.
Improv comedy. And there's a couple of big names that came out of there, like Jordan Peele, Jason Sudeikis, and Seth Meyers. Okay, we've done the name dropping. Spencer and I met in the improv courses, and that's
that's our baseline for our meeting, but we've done much more, and we have a mutual friend who we also work a lot with. But anyway, that's how we know each other.
Yes.
Back into this sentence or this word. I want to know from your point of view how you see resiliency. How do you how does it show up in your life?
Yeah. Cool. Well, we can actually start by connecting resiliency to improv comedy and Boom Chicago.
Oh God, yes.
How about that for a link? So obviously, as you know, like I've spent a lot of time thinking about resiliency in the past year, and we'll get into that conversation. But the link to improv, what I suddenly realized is that resiliency is a skill that you can learn and build like anything else. And that's not what I thought before, as either some people just seem more resilient than others. But when I looked back at my whole life from the minute I was born to this minute right now, there was this constant thread, or a thread that runs through it, if you like, of I've always been somebody who would put myself out of my comfort zone. And this, eventually, how do we become resilient? We have to go through tough and challenging things. And that is actually what makes us more resilient. So, yes, that can be like huge, massive, life-changing things. Or it can also be deciding, hey, I'm going to go learn improv comedy. It scares the jingles out of me, but I am going to go do it anyway.
I love this word bejingles. I just have to say, I say bejesus, but bejingles, nice. Sorry.
And that was almost, it's a bit like the Steve Jobs comment about connecting the dots when you look backwards. But even from a young age, I was always the kid that was always running off and looking around the next corner, looking under stones, getting lost. My parents famously got a phone call from the school saying that I disappeared on a school trip in London because I just went, oh, what's down there? And I just ran off and didn't tell anybody. So I have a history of this kind of stuff. And then in my 20s, going backpacking and just going off traveling for 2 years. And I've done, as you also know, like I've done a lot of work around public speaking and talking in front of, so there are many things like that I never realized at the time, but they were almost like the building blocks of building resiliency. And then last year, when I needed resiliency more than any other time in my life, I suddenly realized, actually, I've already done some of the work. So when I talk to people about it, I always say that the biggest thing that you can start to do is get out of your comfort zone. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone, because I think that is the starting point. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, something that keeps you up at night. But yeah, you want to feel a little bit of, not sure where this is going to go. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I think when you look at what's happening in the world at the moment with AI and all of the geopolitics and everything else, we have no idea what's going to happen. So being comfortable with the uncomfortable, I think it's a good skill to work on for sure.
Yeah, that's something we talked about last week, and I had brought it up too. Especially at this point in our lives, Gen Xers, we're learning quite a bit of stuff right now that, for instance, I lost my dad. I'm learning about grief. Living in another country, that's another way. I mean, all of those are big things. And something you said, it's still echoing in my mind. Now it's about finding joy. But I think it starts at that point of being comfortable with the uncomfortable, because you have to step out of what you used to always do. And that's the excitement, maybe a little fear, but doing something different and approaching life in a different way will show you how resilient you really are, just to bring it back to that point. But there were so many little of these nuggets that I think are sustainable, that kind of ground me at this uncertain time? Because I feel like we've been doing this uncertainty stuff since 2020, right? As a
Yeah.
global, community.
Yeah.
I really love how you say when you were a kid, you would just like zoom off and do the thing and everybody be like, where's Spencer?
Yeah.
So it is part of your personality to go out and do different things. I can hear people in the audience, well, that's not me. So bringing it back to how do you see it being a skill? Because it seems like it's built into you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when somebody comes and teaches on that, right?
I think for me, it's you need to put yourself into challenging situations, and I think we're always so. And I've done a lot of work around emotion. So when we've spoken about this before as well, like there's 8 emotions, and emotions are physical. It's a physical response that we have, and 5 of the 8 are negative, which are things like anger, fear, shame, hate, disgust. The reason we have 5 out of the 8 that are negative is because it's our fight, flight, or freeze. It's what keeps us safe. And our brain is very good at making us not do things that are outside of our comfort zone because, well, there's a bit of a risk. Maybe I'll look silly. Maybe it won't work. Maybe a million different reasons. And I think for me, it's the more you can decide, I'm not going to just look for the comfortable path, but I'm going to look for the challenging path that actually will bring a lot of good things to your life because you'll meet new people, get new experiences, build new skills. And at the same time, I don't want to just jump. Maybe I don't feel comfortable to go right into the deep end and do something huge, but I can definitely decide I'm going to talk to that person at work who I haven't spoken to before, or, take a small step, a first step that you actually feel is outside of your comfort zone. Because again, when we look at resiliency, you only get resilience by going through tough and challenging times. So I think it's finding, and it sounds like a negative thing, which it can be because we can all go through really horrible situations, but it can also be in much smaller things, which I think then compound over time. So I would definitely say that the other big one for me, and I've got many things we can go through, but one of the things that helped me the most in the past year, and maybe it's a good moment to open that conversation up, but is understanding the difference between what can I control and what I can't control. And this for me really saved me in last year. So for those listening, just over a year ago, my eldest son, who was 17 at the time, had quite a horrific accident. He was electrocuted, 22,000 volts, 70% burns. And he was like, we were 3 months in the ICU. We're still, 25 operations down the road. We're still, working our way through it. But we're in a good place now. Like he's done, really amazing progress in the last year and a bit. But when I think back to those months in the ICU, there's so much going on. And you have so much, we went from he might not survive the first few days to possible amputation to that's before you get to how do you deal with the burns. And I can remember thinking, and it reminded me, it goes back to when I was backpacking in my 20s. I read a book which I can never remember the name, but it was some Buddhism book, and there was a parable about the river and the boat. And it said that when you look at the river, you can't control where the river goes. If it's nice, calm water, maybe it's rapids, maybe there's a waterfall at the end, you can't do anything. All you can do is navigate the boat and navigate whatever the waters throw at you. And the parable was obviously that life is the river and you are the boat. So many times during those really, really dark days, I was, okay, is this a river problem or is it a boat problem? Because if it's a river problem, I'm going to try my best to shut it out of my mind. But if it's a boat problem, then it's about how do I show up and what am I doing and how do I, what are my actions? So this for me was really helpful because otherwise there was just too much to kind of take on mentally.
Yeah. I'm curious about that. So, I love the metaphor because you can use it in so many ways. And I want to ask you about the river because it also is a good metaphor for uncertainty. you have to flow with what's coming.
Yeah.
But you're the boat and you're the navigator. So and I just want to say I'm sorry to hear what happened to your son. I realized it was out of country, right? You were
Yeah.
on a trip, which
Yeah.
also adds to it because you had to deal with different things.
Yeah.
So in that, I mean, you learn a lot of different skills, right?
Yeah.
Resiliency being a large one.
Yeah.
When you're going through something like that, you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
How do you extend that out? Because there's more people on your boat,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's a great.
It gets a little more, I'm just curious. I'm opening that part up of it.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
a
Definitely.
wife, another child, right?
Yeah. Definitely. There's there's a lot to unpack there. So yeah, definitely. So relationships and people are really important in tough times because you need to lean on relationships more than you ordinarily would. And it can be, for us back then, it was really simple stuff. Like we're now pretty much living in the hospital for the next 4 months. And it's like, okay, so like you need to like operationalize some really mundane stuff. Like we had a friend, wow, bless her. She came every 3 or 4 days and took our dirty washing, washed it and brought it back. And it's, for me, that's to love, because it's one other thing that we didn't have to worry about, because we're on the top floor of a hospital. Like you're in a very basic, we've got like the suitcases we were with, like, and also like food. Suddenly it's like, okay, you don't want to just live on hospital food for 4 months. So we had people that every week would come one day with a whole load of home cooked food, and it's there for us to use. So that there are, I call it like operationalize the chaos. Like you need to focus on certain things, and you can apply it to any situation. Like something big is happening at work and you think, well, I need to like automate or get other people, like what's the word, like to give to other people to do, delegate. So like delegate as much as you can, because you know that you need to focus on a very specific core set of things that will help you get through this time. And so I think like in that way, like relationships are really important, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, whatever it is. Like, so that's definitely a part of it. And then when it comes to like back then, like with the immediate family, like, for our youngest son, who was with our eldest son when the accident happened, he saw even worse things than I did, because when, I found him, it was already after, but he saw the accident itself. So one of the hardest things I had to do as a parent is I understood that we needed to get him away from the hospital, because one of the things that we learned was PTSD only comes to people when they're trapped in a traumatic situation. If you can get out of the place of trauma and go to a place of what you consider safety, then actually people don't get PTSD. Yep. So
the body feels safe, then it can recalibrate. Exactly. I'm guessing.
Yes, and you can, So what we did was, after the first month, was I started coming back with Tom to Amsterdam. Basically brought him back so he could go back to school, back to his friends, and you kind of saw that the second he got back to his bedroom and his computer and the cat and his friends, like it was an amazing kind of, you saw how it worked in terms of it made him feel like, okay, the process. And then I just did 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. So you definitely, like to I love your analogy of, there's many people in the boat, and some people are going to be able to help you in very specific ways. Other people or you're going to help other people. You're going to help people in certain ways. And some people need to be taken care of. And so, there's definitely, role. Yeah.
I'm hearing a few other things that resiliency calls in, and it's perspective shifting and being okay with doing it in another way, like leaning on a friend in that way. You know, these are the circumstances, and we're using this really upsetting situation as a parent that's upsetting, and you automatically want to take care of the situation. You want to take control of it.
Yeah.
But in there's the resiliency piece. I have to lend out or delegate out. Luckily, some of these wonderful friends got it without thinking, that is an act of love, because they're giving something that seems easy to them, but is so needed, right?
Yeah.
So resiliency has a couple of different, that's what I'm hearing. I wonder how that lands for you, because if you have other people in the boat, you got a certain role. You might have to lower that role in order to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
What
definitely.
I'm kind of going up. Yeah.
And you also, to keep the metaphor going, you need to be selective about who's in the boat. So because like so one of the other things that was like really helped me a lot actually, but and I kind of wrap all of this into self-care. So self-care becomes really important because you suddenly realize, okay, so we're going to be here for quite some time. It's not like it's a few days and then you're out of the hospital. So in the beginning, it's like, I am going to spend every single hour by his bedside. Like, you know, and you suddenly realize you're not going to be able to sustain that level of emotion and lack of sleep and crap food. And so self-care comes down to, okay, so we need to delegate amongst each other as a family. Like, okay, you're going to take this shift by the bed. I'll do that. We look after each other's sleep. Have you had enough sleep? How, you know, I call it like checking in with each other's battery level. Like, okay, how's your battery? Like, are you feeling okay? Okay, I'm feeling good. So have more sleep. Just take another few hours. I'll be okay. Like, so like really that kind of, and this, I guess for me comes from, I heard Brene Brown talk about it. She was talking about marriages and relationships. And she was saying the whole 50-50 thing is a bit of a fallacy because you need 100% from both. Like if you need 100% every day just to get through every day, well, it's not like every day we both bring 50% to the table. Some days I can bring 100, but other days I can only bring 10. So again, it's that kind of having that communication. Having that communication with each other to say, okay, how's your battery? Are you 50% today or are you 80%? And how am I feeling? And okay, how do we manage this between us? So self-care is like important in terms of, okay, we need to make sure we both get good sleep, we eat relatively healthily, you know, check in with each other and all that kind of stuff, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. We're in it for the long haul. And then on top of that, there was, you know, our phones were exploding with messages. And I cannot, you know, we can't talk to everybody. So one of which I really was such a good thing, I set up like a WhatsApp group and I made it only one way. So I can send messages, but nobody else. And we just stopped talking to people. Like we'll do it every single day. We do an update and we'll let you know.
A broadcast.
And so this for me was like really good because it stopped a lot of the phone thing. And then it was quite interesting because it started as okay, we need to update people. But then I suddenly started thinking, actually, Liam through all of this was completely unconscious for the first few weeks. And like he'll have no idea what's happened to him. So actually this daily update that I did, because I used to sit in his room in the evening and just type out the update, hit send, and then so I did it was like a daily thing that I did. And I thought actually it's like a diary for him. So he has a record of what actually happened to him during this time, because he won't know. And then it became about him. And then eventually I suddenly realized it was also like therapy, because it was a way of me going through, okay, what happened today? And when I hit the send button, it was almost like, okay, I can release today and then I'm ready for tomorrow. So it a way of like processing the day and letting it go and going to the next day.
This is everything about resiliency, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's like you're showing how you build that up, right? Sorry, what were you about to say?
Yeah, it was just that like it was another way of protecting my mind from too much input, too many things, too many people. Like self-care becomes really important when you're as part of building resiliency. Like one of the other things I realized is like humor is incredibly important, because like we were making very dark humor type jokes from a day two. Like really, because what you suddenly realize is I can't sustain in the same way that I can't sustain lack of sleep. I can't also sustain dark emotion the whole time. There needs to be like level. I have to release like, and so I also became very selective in terms of there are people around me who totally got it, and they'll join me in the humor party. But there's other people which I totally understand, and I'm somebody who's pretty empathetic, but when they either saw me in person or I talked to them on the phone, they needed to share their emotion with me about what happened. And I'm like, I can bear my own emotion, let alone handle yours as well. And so I totally get you're upset by this. I totally get that it's a hard thing. I totally understand.
You can't hold it for them. Yeah,
I can't hold that space. I can't hold that space for you. It will break me. So it's like I just became very selective about. I want people in my world at the moment who, can join me in the, driving the
take away.
And like focusing on, like other stuff. So self-care and boundaries you could wrap together, but self-care and boundaries was a savior.
I mean, similarly, that's kind of a weird thing that happens when you lose somebody in your life and you have to go to this event, a funeral, and you end up so bizarre, and it's not really people just want you to know how much they care, and then you're ending up being this vessel for them. And I think it's really important. You got to, especially in such a huge moment, you've got to, so resiliency needs all these things, right? You have to have your emotional bandwidth. You have to create a safe environment, especially when it's this big, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder how is it translating in the day to day? Because, that's, I think gives a lot of tools already. I love that it became kind of like a form of therapy every day to give to yourself, but also to help your son when he became conscious again, which is a big deal. That's the skill part, right? That's how you can build up the resiliency. We all go through tough times. Some are bigger than others. How are you translating that now in your day-to-day life more?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I definitely learned through this experience is resiliency is not about being tough. It's not about having it all together. It's about being a complete and utter mess and still moving forward. Amen, definitely. But I think, that for me, I think is important for people to understand that it's not about having it all together. It's not about, like, I was a complete mess, but I was still, what I did is I just made space for, I still need to get up and drive the boat. I still need to get up and do the things that I'm going to do. And it's not going to be perfect. And I'm going to make mistakes, and I've got good days and bad days, and it's all okay, because face it, we're doing the best that we can. And so for me, that's like, like we should all let ourselves off the hook a bit and accept that, like for me, it was almost like I managed to do like in the ICU room and out of the ICU room. So actually, I was able to totally have it together when I'm in that room, and especially towards the later stages of the stay in the ICU, as he became within the ICU environment, he became like less of a critical patient because he was obviously getting better and better. And so I started doing more and more to help the nurses with the treatment, which was that was its own journey because you have to get comfortable with the injuries and what they look like, and so I was doing a lot of the treatment stuff. But for me, it kind of that helped me for me because I felt like I need to get busy doing something. So for me, it worked. For other people, that's not going to work. So there are certain things that are very personal, but for me, I'm like, okay, get busy, start doing stuff. But I would then leave the ICU room and I would go upstairs to the floor where we have this little room that we're basically living in, and then I would fall to pieces. And my way of falling to pieces, obviously lots of crying and stuff like that, but it was comfort eating. So I would, without even thinking about it, I would find myself sat on a chair in the corner, literally looking at the corner of the room, like really close to it. So I'm like here in the corner, and I had there was like these cakes in this tray, and I would get a knife and I would just sit there and just start cutting piece after piece. And I'm not even conscious. I'm hardly conscious of what I'm doing, but I'm processing what just happened in that room for the last 4 hours or whatever it was. And so for me, like, yeah, it's like, again, and I mean, I was strong enough to understand, like, okay, through this period, I'm not going to drink anything. So I had no alcohol for 6 months because I thought self-medication with food is one thing, but with alcohol, that's not going to work. So that was also the self-care thing, was to understand, okay, certain things I need to like stop. But yeah, so it's, it's going to be messy. We're not going to have it all together, but it's okay. That's not what resiliency is about. Resiliency is about getting up, dusting yourself off and moving forward, even though you're a mess and you might not have it all figured out, but it's okay. It will work out. So it's
I'd like, I hear a lot of cool things in there that I want to say. You're getting your needs met, and you started to bring up boundaries, and that's critical in understanding how to navigate that boat, because it's going to look different for everybody. Like you said, at one point you started getting involved in the dressing of the wounds, I'm guessing, and understanding why and how. You've explained some of that when we saw each other last week. I mean, it's an intense process.
Sure.
And that wouldn't work for everybody, but you got to a point where you wanted to be more involved. So your needs change over time, just as the situation evolves.
Yeah.
And also thinking through, okay, what do I need? I'm going to need these cakes in a cry out cake moment or whatever you want, because that's a lot of emotion. And I think you also made another contract as, I'm the captain of this boat, if I could say that. And I feel like being in that room, I have to be this thing, and then I will get my emotional needs met outside. And it's actually quite a beautiful thing to explore, because that's not being tough. That's, whatever that means. I think that's bro work words, be tough your way through. I think we all understand soldier on and all these, but resiliency is really flexible, like that river. It's moving with what is needed now. I think that's also in the background of resiliency.
Yeah, it's being okay with the fact that you have no control. You have no idea what's going to happen. You're in a situation that is emotionally tough, and you just need to keep putting one step forward, one at a time. It comes from a very different place, but I remember one of my first jobs after uni, when I was early 20s, and there was like the managing director who would always come and do like a walk around the department, and I was like the young junior person. But he told me something that day that I haven't forgotten in 30 years of working. And he was asking me, okay, what am I working on? And I told him, And I asked his advice, what would you do if you were in this situation? And he said to me, Spencer, the only important thing is you keep making decisions. Because when you make decisions, you are in control of what's happening. Whereas if you don't make any decisions, you're letting events take control. So when I go back to my boat and the river analogy, for me, that is about saying, if I'm not making decisions, I'm just letting the boat float down the river and it takes me where it takes me. Whereas if I keep making decisions, it's like me with an oar. I'm trying to get to like, there's a nice calm bit of water over there. And what he said was like that, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the wrong decision. You can decide your way out of a problem. You can decide your way out of tough situation. Keep making decisions because each decision will move you forward. And so for me, that's also something that was in the back of my head because I've thought about this many times in my life. But yeah, I decide that I'm going to get up and go to that room and do A, B, and C or whatever. So I think that just that it's almost like an act of rebellion that like, okay, there's so many things I can't control. And so I'm just going to focus on what I can. And this for me was like, it helped me so many times.
And it gives you a clear way to see life anyway, because there are many more things we don't have control of than what we do.
Yeah.
And decision making, another way of looking at that is getting out of your comfort zone. If you are always stuck in paralysis, that's where you're going to be. You're going to stay stuck and the boat's not going to go down the river or whatever. Let's use all the metaphors.
Yeah.
But I think in this conversation, what I'm really loving is that it's not just a one fits all kind of thing. Resiliency is really personal and can be applied to anything, really. I think a lot of people are changing jobs, and like you mentioned in the beginning, we're seeing a lot of change in the world and on all levels. And sometimes resiliency comes knocking at your door in a really big bad way, and sometimes it's I don't really like this job anymore or whatever it is. I like that it is a skill. It's something you're already probably doing, but in your example, it shows you what you need for yourself and how to do it, right?
Yeah.
We had this little conversation too about, I know, as somebody being in her midlife, that's showing me a lot of resiliency, like what my body can't do anymore.
Yeah.
How I can't, there's so many of those things. And something you said that I really want to bring up. I don't know if I already said it. I also have ADHD, so I'm repetitive. You said this thing last week when we were talking, and I love it because it's coming from your perspective. And I'm used to talking to midlifers who are women. And yes, we have a lot of things that are going on. But I liked this thing that you said. And I'm just going to say it for you, but I'd love for you to continue this thought. You said to me, what I'm finding these days is that I've done it all and I was getting bored. I was like, in your 50s, right? I've had the career success. I've had this and then, and I might be saying this wrong, but this is the key for me is that you said it's about finding joy now. Not in the big things because, you're living in a different country. You did this, you did that. Now it's, where do I see joy now? Yeah. I mean, did I get that right? Because that's what I really took away from it is looking for joy. And
I think, this is a journey I'm going through. So I'm 53. And I think 50 for me, like I never was bothered about age at all. Like I blew through 40, didn't give it a second thought, like really didn't bother me. But 50 was a moment. 50 was like, okay, 50. Wow, how did that happen? I was quite surprised.
I know, it's ridiculous. But true.
I guess it kind of started from this, like naturally you take stock of like, okay, where am I? And I guess where my mind took it to was it would be very easy for me to spend the next 10 years in pretty much the same way that I'd spent the last 10 years, But actually, maybe that's not the way to do it, because what I also realize is, my body is changing. Like, I need more recovery, and I can't lose weight in the way that I used to be able to. And I have no idea in my 60s, maybe I can't do many things. So you have no idea. Like, hopefully, I'm obviously hoping that I'm going to be very healthy and active, but you don't know. There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
And so, it made me think about, like, this next 10 years, what does that mean? Like, what's important to me? And I think, like, if, like, it took me many years to think about what is happiness, like what makes me happy. And for me, it's about feeling at peace. So, like, feeling at peace for me is the secret to happiness. And joy is part of that, because what I suddenly realized, I actually now get a lot of joy from having, like, the conversation that we're having right now, or having a cup of coffee with a friend, or watching a butterfly or a bumblebee on a plant that it's taken me 3 years to get that bumblebee to the garden, or to go for a hike, or, so it's not about stuff. It's not about money. It's about time and experiences, and small things as well as bigger things. But that's what I'm trying to focus on now is, what brings me joy, and what does that look like? And, improv was part of that. Like, I started improv from really thinking, okay, how can I be more confident on a stage when you can't plan anything? And eventually it became 3 hours of joy. Like, because every week I go and meet a great group of people. We're all supportive of each other. I laughed my head off for 3 hours. And I was like, this is 3 hours of pure joy every single week.
It's so fun. Yeah. It really, I want to go again. But because it drops you in the moment, and it's fun. It's, it's all the elements in that space of time. And yeah, exactly. I went because I was burned out and I wanted to have more fun. And you start taking stock of what did you always want to do when you grew up? Okay, I want to be a comedian. How do I start? I don't know. But I think that is a great way to wrap all this up, is that focusing on what is happiness for you, peace, joy, in the little moments. And I love that whole part where you say we had really dark humor at one point, because it relieves things. It gives you, it takes, the heaviness out when you can be with a situation in that way. And I feel like that is resilient.
Yeah. And I think just like, let's all let ourselves off the hook. There is no right or wrong way to go through something like that. Like, you just have to figure out what feels right for you. Even if you just start with self-care, I think that's already going to put you in a much better place. I think it's, but definitely for me, humor was, maybe that's the thread. Improv. Yeah.
It's always humor. I find it one of my key medicines, like, let's just have a laugh, because this actually kind of stinks. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on my little podcast, and hopefully we'll have another chance to talk again. And it's good to have this chat, even if we're recording it. But thanks a lot, Spencer, for being here.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to this latest episode of Between Sips. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to this channel. Or if you want to continue this conversation, join my community over on Substack. You'll find all the information below. And thank you for listening. Until next time, from my cup to yours.